and I hope you won't be disappointed, and I hope you have questions, and we will have very hot and interesting and almost exciting discussions. A part of the topic, we will discuss missile Oreshnik. So on the 9th of January, Russia used again a missile that most people in the West never heard of, and it's called Oreshnik. And since then, military analysts, NATO officials, intelligence agencies in Europe and United States, they've been quietly asking the same question. Is it a game changer? Is it meant to scare us into overreacting? Today I want to explain what Oreshnik is actually, why Russia used it now, and what does it mean? Not just for Ukraine, but for US, UK, and the global security. It's not hype. I'm sure you came across different articles, reports, some of them more interesting, some of them repetitive. I just want to give you the context. So, on the 9th of January, Russian forces attacked Ukraine using 278 aerial attacks assets, and one of them was Oreshnik. And its medium-range ballistic missile launched from Kapustin Yar test range in Russian Astrakhan region. According to the conclusions by Ukrainian experts, based on the fragments of the Russian Oreshnik missile that struck Dnipro in 2024, the so-called latest Russian development is in fact based on outdated technologies. According to reports which I read from CNN, and there was United 24 media also. So let's look at some crucial details. So Andriy Kulchitsky, Ukrainian expert from Kiev Scientific Research Institute of Forensic Expertise, told CNN there was nothing particularly frightening in the missile design. They were examining the parts which fell off, and he showed the gyroscope from Oreshnik, saying that Yuri Gagarin flew the same kind. Can you imagine? We live in 2026 and they still using the parts from Yuri Gagarin. Yes, we're live. Hi guys, hello. So Oreshnik has details from those which were used during flights with Yuri Gagarin in Soviet era. Another expert said the Soviet-era vacuum tubes were among the debris. Ciao everyone who's joining us. So I just remind you that back in November 2024, after the first use of Oreshnik into Dnipro, it's central Ukraine, and then head of Ukraine's main intelligence, Kirill Budanov, said that Oreshnik was just a code name, that the system itself called Kedr. And his deputy, Vadim Skibitsky, stated that in 2018-2019, Russia launched a new research and development project known as Kedr-RV. The project aimed to develop a missile system to replace RS-24 Yars. A missile originated in the Soviet era and remains on the combat duty in Russia. The development of Kedr missile system was based on Rubezh missile complex. However, according to Skibitsky, something went wrong, like usually in Russia. And then they halted the development in 2017. Instead, Russia launched a new program, which named Oreshnik. So, Oreshnik, everyone calls the new ballistic missile. But if we look at the parts which left after it exploded on Ukraine territory, it's not so much new, is it? So it's not nuclear, but it doesn't need to cause a strategic panic. Why? Because it travels to extreme speed and it makes difficult to hit for air defense system. Or it's very hard to predict the trajectory of this missile. So I just remind you that ballistic missile defense is one of the most expensive and limited parts in NATO security system. This is probably the reason why the defense expert or the NATO officials get nervous. And so why Oreshnik is different from other missiles? Because Russia had many missiles, so why attention now? So far I found 3 reasons. It's speed, surprise, message, not damage, and air defense stress test. So basically, Oreshnik reportedly flies at hypersonic or near hypersonic speeds. That reduces warning time. So it's not dozens of minutes, it can be few minutes. Second thing, Russia didn't use just Oreshnik, it announces, it wasn't just the battlefield alone, it's more about sending a message to the West and obviously to Ukraine. And also it's air defense stress test, because air defense system supported by US, UK, EU, among the most advanced one. And by launching Oreshnik, Putin basically asking, can you stop this? And the most interesting part, for my liking, so timing matters. Why it is now? Why on the 9th of January? Has anything sort of ignited it or anything influenced on that? So basically, according to the opinions and articles I looked, apparently Putin is hysterical right now. And again, it wasn't his first time. First time was when Zelensky went to Mar-a-Lago and met Trump. They had press conference, and there were a few important things that ignited the fire in Putin's mind. So because they were seriously discussing security guarantees for Ukraine, and that Marco Rubio was part of those who negotiating it, it makes Kremlin and Putin particularly nervous. Also, President Zelensky said during their press conference about peace plan of 20 points, not 28. And Putin all the way was saying about 28 points. And for him, that's important. And Trump didn't correct. And it seems like this is what they're working on. So Russia did not deploy Oreshnik randomly. And according to those who worked with Putin and used to know him closely, the answer on those who sort of basically send in missile on the 9th, it's answer to those agreements which were signed in Paris on the 6th of January, and particularly the parts of the presence of British and French troops on the ground. Do you remember the beginning of war when Biden was saying no troops on the ground? Apparently that was the main thing which Putin was worried about. So now after the peace and ceasefire and everything, the troops will be on the ground. And it's a serious agreement. And Putin doesn't like that. So Oreshnik it's his reaction, his answer. It's indicator that he's hysterical. And basically we can say that he's having tantrum. And he just wanted to send a signal to Europe. That's why he chosen Lviv, because Lviv is the closest. It's basically if you travel from the border with Poland, it takes only an hour to the city center. So basically for the Polish authorities or NATO officials, so today Lviv and tomorrow can be any other NATO country. So Putin's trying to scare the coalition of the willing. That's sort of the most common answer, or the most popular thought I found through the research. And NATO support is increasing. Western military aid to Ukraine has become more sophisticated, longer range weapons, better intelligence sharing. So political uncertainty in the West, elections, budget debates, war fatigue. Russia watches Western politics very closely. And they, all the way since the full-scale invasion, they're trying to scare, to spread the fear. So Oreshnik is as much about fear and firepower. in all of this context, especially when there's finally Ukraine and US on the peace negotiation path. The son of the silent stage saying the annual production of this missile is negligible in real terms. I'm more interested in America's interest in a tanker ship. Well, I think we need to see what's happening next, isn't it? Because they picking up one after another. And I think we need more to watch closely before we get into analyzing it and drawing some conclusions. So back to Oreshnik, and yes, you're right. It's not something we change by situation on the battlefield, but apparently for Putin and the PR campaign which going with Oreshnik, it's one of those toys that he likes to rattle and hoping for the fear. So it is fair to ask ourselves from time to time, does it change the war? From what I've heard from the experts, not immediately, but it might change the psychological and diplomatic landscape. I wish I had a chance to hear what they're talking behind the closed doors and how they discuss and what cards does Russia have when they're discussing things with US, for example. And also, so what Oreshnik doesn't do, it doesn't win the war with Russia, for Russia. It doesn't eliminate Ukraine's defenses, and it doesn't replace manpower problems. What it can do, raises escalation sphere, which is fair enough, tests NATO red lines. I think it's been red lines all along story, isn't it? And it's also add pressure of negotiations. I think adding pressure is the main purpose of using Oreshnik and talking about it and speculating about it from Russian side. So I think it would be fair if we take Oreshnik less of a sword and more of a warning flare. So should be people in the West, EU, UK, US worried? It's not immediate threat to London or New York. Yes, it might bring serious implications for the future warfare, but many experts say that Oreshnik tells us something more important. The next wars won't be about numbers, they will be about speed, technology and perception. And Ukraine, once again, where those systems are being tested. And Ukraine is a place where not just this, like a lot of new systems, a lot of new technologies appearing and changing the books of war, isn't it? My final thoughts on sort of Oreshnik topic today would be that Ukraine is not just the fighting territory, it's fighting inside, and it's basically like a global experiment where new weapons are introduced, observed, analyzed, adjusted, created, and Oreshnik is not the end of the story. It feels like it's just one of the important points of this war. If one day we decide to draw the big picture of the war, Russian war against Ukraine, Oreshnik will be one of them. And it's just reminded that security in the UK, US is connected, very closely connected to what happens in Ukraine, whether we like it or not. So what do you think? Are you scared of Oreshnik, or are you scared of that Oreshnik can be a real game changer, or is just political theatre? What do you think? Let me know. And the other thing which I wasn't sure if you'd like for us to discuss, it's the ruffles with intelligence in Ukraine, and how President Zelensky using the rivalry between Budanov and Vasyl Maluk and other intelligence officers and generals in the Ukraine. If you're interested in this topic, please let me know, and we will have another live and we'll have the conversation about it. and we look at it because there's a lot of competition, used to be a lot of competition between Budanov's defense intelligence and SBU Maluk's. Now he resigned, but he used to be the head of it, and there was sometimes you hear in the news something happened in Russia, something exploded or the Crimea bridge was damaged, and it takes time to figure out, was it SBU or was it defense intelligence? And sometimes there was mixed signals and they couldn't decide. And I remember at some point the rivalry between these two organizations went to the boiling point, and two generals had to meet and sort of to manifest that we are not fighting, we are not arguing, there's peace, and we aiming for the same, to defend Ukraine. If you're interested more to talk more about Vasyl Maluk, because he has absolutely different story from Kirill Budanov, and while Kirill Budanov is younger and has longer stories of becoming hero, becoming legend, Vasyl Maluk used his only opportunity when Zelensky noticed him during his work with it, and first sort of like he moved him to Kiev. And on one hand, Maluk used his chance to become legend. I don't know if he's going to if Maluk is going to make us proud and excited about new operations and make Russia nervous, or it will be so he's going, he had his glorious time. But anyway, he made President Zelensky proud, because the previous head of SBU, there's big mistake of President Zelensky time. And Ivan Bakanov used to be his childhood friend, and it's probably the lesson. Even if a good guy, won't make him a good official. So let me know if you're interested to know about this intelligence and maybe other topics. So we will have another live maybe tomorrow, maybe another day during the week. And we look closely at Vasyl Maluk and his proud moments. And it's a good story, how a smart and strong guy used an opportunity to defend Ukraine and made the whole nation proud. And made Putin many times nervous. And he was the one who created and conducted the web operation with all those drones and destroying Russian fighter jets. So let me know, please hit the like button, because that's how the algorithms of YouTube working, and the more I get likes, the more recommendations get this video and my channel. Let me know what you think. Thank you for those who joined me today, and if you're watching this after live, leave your thoughts in the comments. I read all of them, and we'll discuss if you left some questions during the next live. I'm Jenny Klochko. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye.